Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our webinar tonight, titled The Ultimate Custom Fitting Process Equals the Ultimate Customer Experience. We've got Pete Durham all the way from France. He's going to share some valuable info with us. And during the presentation, please just put your phone, your microphones on mute. And then also, if you have a question, you can post it in the chat box. And then after the presentation, we'll get to your questions, and then we'll take it further from there. So without any further ado, Peter, thanks so much. Welcome. And the floor is yours.
Okay, good evening all, and welcome to this webinar. I'm quite excited about this one because it's one of the things I'm most passionate about is getting custom fitting and hardware sales to where they should be for you guys. So before we start, I want to talk about the reason why I created this process. So for many years, I was visiting golf pros across the UK, and I'd see a mixture of studios that had a wow factor. I'd see studios that needed some TLC, but in most cases, I didn't actually see a process. So even those guys that have spent 20, 30, 40K or more on a studio didn't have a process in place. So there wasn't a wow factor on service. There was a wow factor in the studio in most cases, but the actual service was inconsistent. And so I also saw studios where the netting was torn, there was paraphernalia all over the studios, there was banana skins, there was all sorts of things going on, and they were charging £70 a session. And they were asking me, why am I so quiet? And the reason is because the customers don't feel it's value for money. So one of the big issues was there was no consistency of service. And this can still be a huge problem after implementing my process, because imagine someone who has experienced the 7-stage custom fit process, goes away, talks highly about your business, recommends it to a friend, and then they come into the store. They don't receive the same kind of treatment. They don't get the emails. They don't get the service. They're not kept in touch with, and so on. So you'll be very careful that when you instigate this process, it's consistent. In other words, all members of your team have bought into this process and fully understand it. So that's so important. The other thing about this process is that it empowers the junior members of your team. So rather than members of staff saying, I don't do the hardware sales, I'm not a custom fitter, they actually can get involved in this process along with the guys that do the fitting. And they can also actively build and obtain appointments for you guys. So rather than just sitting there and taking a telephone number, they can proactively sell the fitting process and fill up the custom fitting diary. The difference this can make is enormous. So I have some guys who have increased their turnover in 1 year by over 100,000 UK sterling just by introducing this process. I've had guys that have had to build an additional studio to cope with demand. And it's changed their business, it's changed their position, it's changed their business completely. And it's also strengthened their relationship with the golf club. Last thing to note, guys, please don't take any notes. You're going to get the full presentation after this webinar and all the supporting documentation, because I want you to go back and run through it with your teams in your store, and you'll then be able to fully implement the process back in your clubs. Okay, so let's get started. So hopefully I can activate share the screen. I'm going to talk you through the presentation, and any questions, as Francois says, let's talk about those at the end. Okay. Start from the beginning. Okay, hardware sales. In my view, you have no competition. And the reason for that is because you have these points going for you. You have a relationship, well, you should have a relationship, a very strong one, with most of your members at your golf club. You have the expertise. You are the experts. You are the ones that can give the customer the right advice and help them with their game of golf. Very important, you offer unbiased PGA advice. You've been trained to make golfers get the best out of their game. Your training means that you're going to give them the best advice possible, which isn't being steered by margins or product you need to sell. It's because you actually care about their game. You're the ultimate inconvenience. No additional journeys to be made. You're there at the golf club. You're there 5 or 6 days a week. So you are the ultimate inconvenience for the shopper. You also, because you are the ultimate inconvenience, you're there all the time, you have the ability to provide the very best after-sales service. And you have the ability to show them that you really care about their game. Okay, so why is it important to have a structured custom fitting process? Everyone offers custom fitting. Wherever you go, there are signs saying we offer a custom fit. We offer that kind of service. So it's a driver, a set of irons, a wedge, a putter, we can help you out with it. And so everybody offers this service. And most of your competitors actually have a studio or a launch monitor. But the problem for me is that no one explains, what is this custom fit service? What does it involve? What are the benefits? What do I need to do to benefit from this sort of service? I see lots of signs saying we offer custom fitting in the stores, but nothing that talks about the processes and the benefits for the customer. So what makes a successful custom fit retailer? First of all, it's well-trained, customer-focused staff. Secondly, and very important for me, is a commission structure that drives appointment bookings. So in other words, even junior staff, if they achieve an appointment, a fitting appointment in the diary, and it turns into a retail sale, it's my belief they should get some commission for doing that. So get the whole team behind driving hardware sales. A structured inquiry and sales process. A store, as I've said, that shouts about your custom fitting expertise, your facilities, the benefits of being completely correctly fitted, etc. A hardware section that has a wow factor, and a golf studio that lives up to the marketing expectations. In other words, it also has a wow factor. On top of that, in terms of social media and activities, you should be doing lots of educational membership engagement events around the benefits of custom fitting. This might be a clubhouse chat with the members where all your professional team are involved, talking to the members about the benefits of custom fitting. They're very powerful. Lots of testimonials regarding your fitting service and positive customer outcomes and experiences. And also bear in mind, coaching and custom fitting should dovetail. One should feed the other, and they should feed off each other. So in my opinion, you can't have one without the other. And a big one for me, a structured after-sales service that ensures a continued customer engagement and future purchase. It's not about the driver they bought today, the putter they bought today. It's about the purchases they make for the next 10 years and how many times they do that. Once they've bought a set of irons from you, they should never buy a set of irons from anyone else. If they do, we've failed in keeping them engaged, keeping them close, and making sure they're enjoying their purchase. So once they've been in your store and they've made a purchase, you should be focused on repeating that and banking that customer for the foreseeable future. Okay, so clear, exciting in-store signage is very important. So here are some examples where we've done a scoring zone, which just focuses on the wedges and the putters in this particular store. And it talks about the fact that 80% of their shots to par are lost within 100 yards of the green. And at the Berkshire here on the right, it's one where we actually created this feature above its hardware display. Now, I know there's too much hardware there. We needed to set up a lot of hardware, but you can see the storyboard that we've created. So when customers look at the hardware, they can see the benefits of custom fitting and also the process that they will experience at the Berkshire. Other ones we've done before are similar in a way. This one was done for Royal Mid Surrey, and these were done as slat wall inserts. So it does allow you to still display golf clubs because they clip onto the slat wall inserts, and manufacturers of this sort of stuff can do it fairly easily. And I'm happy to provide anyone with any of this stuff afterwards, so you can go along to someone and ask them to create it for you. And slat wall inserts are great because they're cheap to do. You can move them around the store. You can change bits and pieces as things develop, and it gives you total flexibility. So here we're talking about the 4 key benefits: shaft length, how it affects strike consistency, ball flight and lie angle, spin rates, and grip thickness. And in this particular store, we then talk the customer through the process: stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. So we're getting the customers excited about being custom fit in our store. So we're not just saying we custom fit, we're saying, look at the experience that you're going to actually have if you actually choose to buy your golf clubs from us. So there are 3 stages there. And then we have 4th, 5th, and 6th. Clubs will be delivered from the manufacturer, inviting you back for an equipment check, continuing to keep in touch with you, offering you a free or a discounted regripping facility in 12 months' time. After sales service. Why am I offering the best after sales service? Well, a 4-week equipment check, ongoing advice from the professional team, a 12-month equipment check, and discounted regrips for the life of the purchase. So this one was done at Porter's Golf in Northants. So you can see it was varied because we've got a smaller space to work with. And again, you can see these are slat wall inserts. These were done in doubles in 200 mil, but they can be done in 100 mil as well. And this one is the scoring zone, which I showed you earlier, which you can see goes into slat wall inserts. So huge flexibility, and these guys are not expensive to do. A slat wall feature, for example, costs about 50 or 60 pounds sterling to do. So it's quite a cheap thing to do, but it changes the impact from just being veneer in the store to a very strong storyboard. These are examples of external signage. So these can be done in ContraVision, where you can actually see out from the store, but customers can't see in. That talks about your studio, the price list, and the custom fitting services you offer, gapping, ball fitting, etc. And also pop-up banners, very useful to do. You can put them in the clubhouse entrance. You can put them outside the shop on a nice day. You can take them to events. You can put them up by the 18th green. Again, not expensive to do, and they do actually communicate to the members about the services you offer and how it differs to your competition. So studios need to have a wow factor. So I'm going to show you 2 pictures now. Which one best represents yours? Is it this one? And this was a store which was charging £70 for a fitting. And that's what the customer walks into. So the customer's got an expectation, and we've completely ruined it. Or is it that? Now that's the kind of studio where the customer is not wanting to leave. They're going to want to stay in there and come back time and time again. We may not have the finances to do a studio just like that, but with a bit of hard work, some carpentry, you'd be amazed what you can achieve. The key thing also is to make sure that your team are disciplined. There's no point in having a studio that looks like that if the last pro that went in there to fit has left his coffee cup in there, he's left the clubs lying on the floor, he's not put the heads back on the racks. It can turn into a disaster zone. So make each professional doing your fitting responsible for keeping the studio in pristine condition. More examples here of how you can do it. You can buy these units we can buy them from places like Halfords in the UK, a DIY store, motorist discount stores, keeping tools in. They're very useful for the heads. Plumber clips can be used for the shaft, for instance. Some people have used Velcro clips. There's all sorts of things you can do to actually end up with a look that's like that. And again, heads in the drawers, all organized, all to hand, making the experience so much more professional for the customer. Okay, so let's talk about the secret to beating the competition, which is why we're here. So I'm going to take you through the 7-stage process of custom fitting. And at the end of this, you'll get the document to do the same thing with your team. So what are the stages and why are they so important? Okay, the first thing we have is a pre-fitting assessment. Now, this is very important because rather than just getting a telephone number and a name of someone that actually wants a fitting, we're going to make them sit down with a cup of coffee and actually have a pre-fitting assessment, which we'll go into in a little bit more detail later. Then we follow that up with a VIP, a very important person, email to further excite them about the fitting appointment that they've booked with us. Then we have the fitting process. Now, this is a 3-part fitting form, which includes swing analysis for future reference, which is very, very important. Specification required and final details of equipment. A customer signature to confirm their specifications, so there's no problem with a customer saying, I didn't order that shaft, I didn't order those grips with 3 layers of tape. They've actually signed off the form to confirm the order specification. Very important for you guys. And it's also a time to sell a gapping session, which we'll go into a bit later. Stage 4, follow-up email saying thank you for the fitting appointment. And this is what you should expect following your purchase in terms of service. The collection. The equipment check, 4 weeks after they've been playing with their golf clubs and hopefully the gapping session as well. And stage 7, very important, ongoing engagement with this customer who has trusted you with what, let's face it, £2,000-3,000 worth of their money to buy the latest set of golf clubs, driver, bag, whatever. So they trusted you with their money. So therefore, we need to make sure we deliver an outstanding level of service. And if we do that, we'll get their purchases every 5 years for their irons, every 3 years for their drivers, their wedges, we'll get their friends' purchases, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's a 7-stage process. The problem and the opportunity for you guys is that 99% of golf retailers only do stage 3, and that's the fitting process. They don't do it on a proper format. They don't build the excitement and the expectations, and they don't keep in touch with the customers that they've spent this time with selling golf equipment to. So it's an opportunity for you guys that do it right to take the market locally. Okay, so stage 1, pre-fitting assessment. A coffee machine is there. You can see why, because I think it's very important they get good quality free coffee, fresh ground coffee, while they're talking to you and they're filling in their pre-fitting assessment, or you're sitting down with them and doing it together. Whichever way you do it, it's not just a name and a telephone number. This is the start of the journey. So let's start getting them excited. Imagine you buying a car and spending £30,000 or £40,000. They really do spoil you because they appreciate you're spending lots of money. Often the after-sales service lets them down, but the build up to getting the car tends to be quite exciting. Well, this is no different. In fact, in most cases, it's right up there with a car for most golfers as being equally important. So part 1, game and swing assessment, is the form they fill in when we talk them into the benefits of custom fitting and why they should be custom fit with us. So rather than just a name and telephone number, we've got all the details. We've got their contact details for database information. We've got details about the golfer that they are, their aspirations. Have they been fitted before? Do they take regular tuition? Any physical limitations, for example? Do they practice in addition to playing? What are the current make and model of their clubs? Have they been fitted before? If so, do they know their specification? And the last thing we have is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do they rate themselves in the following areas of golf? And then you've got notes to make. Now, the important thing about this is it gives the person doing the fitting lots and lots of information. So let's say, for example, it's a left-hander who's coming for a fitting, and all they've got is the name and telephone number. So your equipment, your quad, whatever you're using is set up for the wrong side, the tee's on the wrong side of the mat. So you're starting off on the wrong foot because the person walking in is a left-hander. Well, with this form, you know this person is going to be left-handed. You know what they're looking for, so you can lay out products accordingly in your studio. The other benefit to this is that it empowers your staff. So your staff can actually complete this on your behalf. So a member of staff who doesn't do the custom fitting, doesn't get involved in that side of the business, this empowers them to sit the customer down, talk through the benefits of the custom fitting, which they can do from the graphics inside your store, talking about the key 4 benefits and the process and why it's so exciting to be fitted here. Then they can sit down with a cup of coffee and with the customer and get the customer to complete this. So rather than just a name and telephone number, you've got a form that someone's completed with all the information you need to make a successful custom fitting session. And it empowers your junior staff to get involved. Commission them on this as well, £5 or £10 per custom fit. That actually turns into a retail sale, and they should be booking your diary up with fittings. Sorry, one more point on this one. Have these on clipboards. So for me, I would have it on a clipboard by the desk, so that when somebody comes in to inquire about custom fitting, and we've talked about the benefits, we've shown them our custom fitting process, we sit them down, the form doesn't have to be printed out, it's there and ready and waiting on a clipboard for you to enter later on onto the iPad, for instance, or to file ready for the date they're actually going to come in and have their fitting. Stage 2, the email that you send out to them after this inquiry form has been filled in. Make sure it's personal. So it's get them excited. First name, terms, thank you for coming in. So pleased you're going to come and actually have a fitting session for a new driver or whatever it might be. Make it personal. Include the date, time of appointment, directions. For instance, if it's a phone call where you've filled in the form over the phone, give them directions so they know where to come. If the studio, for instance, is somewhere else at the club, don't come to the pro shop, come to wherever it needs to be. So details to be included. Explain the process and the length of time it will take. Very important. It's not 10 minutes. It's normally about an hour. Round about that is ideal. So explain that in your letter. Tell them what they need to bring with them. Often I have seen pros that say that the guy turned up with no shoes, or the guy turned up without his clubs. Well, for me, that's your fault, because you didn't tell the customer to bring their clubs. So how can you compare the new equipment to his existing equipment if he didn't bring the clubs with them? So put that in the letter. Invite family and friends to attend if you have a catering or viewing facility at the golf club or F&B business. And also include pictures and a link to a video of your launch monitor in action. So in other words, get them excited, show them a video of someone else being fitted in your studio. Ramp up the excitement. Okay, I'll give you a letter example of this after the presentation that we'll send out to you. Okay, stage 3, the fitting process. Some key points. I'm not going to tell you how to custom fit. Hopefully you know how to do that. I'm just going to talk you through a few key points on the fitting process. Very important for me, every customer that's buying a new set of golf clubs, for instance, should be booking a gapping session. Because the club should go a different distance or fly differently, because that's the reason they're changing. It also ensures that they've booked and paid for a gapping session, they're coming back in 4 weeks' time for their equipment check. Now, what most of my clients tend to do is say a gapping session is, let's say, $39.99 for a gapping session. They offer it for £20 to the customer on the day of the fitting session. So if they book it and pay for it on that day, they get it at half price. Then that takes place in the 4-week equipment check. So it's a great way of selling it along with the hardware sale and getting the customer back. So if you have another opportunity to engage with them and sell them other products or lessons or whatever it might be. But it's another additional sale. So whatever the discount you offer some discount for the person having the fitting, and then take the payment for that at the same time as selling the golf clubs. But in my opinion, 99% of your customers, if not 100%, should be booking a gapping session at the same time. Shake hands at the end of each session and congratulate the client. So say, well done, that's the club for you. Right, let's move on to the wedges now, whatever it might be. Take control of the situation. You are the expert. You're the dentist. They're sat in the dentist chair. You're the expert. So therefore, take control of the situation. Don't let it drag on. Don't let them bring out 8 or 9 different options. Stick to 3 or 4 maximum and take control and use the stats. If that's what the stats are saying is the best in terms of distance and dispersion and flight, then that's the club for them. Shake their hand and say, right, great. We've sorted out the irons. We've sorted out the driver. Now let's look at some hybrids. Yeah, but take control. Don't be frightened to take control. As I said before, sign off part 4 of the customer order form, which you'll see in a second. That confirms the specifications. There's no arguments about the fact that the clubs you've got in for them isn't what they agreed or thought they were going to get. They've signed the form when you've taken them through it before they leave the shop. There might be a trade-in value agreed because they're going to take their clubs away, of course, and play with them until the new ones arrive. So therefore, you've agreed the trade-in value, which will happen when you put it through the till and their clubs come back and so on. And also take full payments. This is very important. I've actually been to golf shops where in the back of the shop, there are 4 or 5 or 6 sets of irons. And I've said, what are these? And they said, well, they're customers that have been custom fit and never came back for their golf clubs. So I'm saying, well, why didn't you take payment? Well, they didn't. Now, for me, these clubs are unique to them. You've custom fit these golf clubs just for them. So the lie angle, the length of the shaft, the thickness of the grip, whatever it might be, these are custom fit for them, which means you're quite within your rights. And most customers would actually expect to pay in full at the time of order. Do not leave yourself exposed to having sets of irons left over that you can't actually sell to anybody else because they're not standard spec. These clubs are specifically for them. So therefore, payment up front is what you need to make sure you do. And it's also much better for your cash flow because when payment's taken up front, it's going to be at least a month before you see the invoice for these clubs. So therefore, your cash flow stays very positive. Okay, so the actual fitting forms, I won't go through these in too much detail now, but you can see we've got first form on the left, we've got striking, tendencies, point of impact, trajectory, speed of driver, speed of 7-iron, other club there. So you've got all the launch monitor stats to detail as you go through the process. And then we have other details on the right, swing speed, club length, lie angle, grip size, and so on and so forth. So we can look at all these specifications with the customer and complete these forms. And the final one is the customer order form, which is the one that you're going to complete with the customer, detailing exactly what they're ordering. And there shouldn't be any options in there that aren't covered, but please let me know if there are. And you can see at the bottom, price agreed, trade-in value, balance to pay, which hopefully there isn't because you've taken full payment, and signed by the customer. Now these forms, all 4 of them, the inquiry form, the fitting forms I've just shown you, are all available to you after this webinar. And I've also got a editable PDF format, which you can use with an iPad. So you can store these on the iPad and save them electronically by customer name. So that makes things a lot easier. And only the boxes are editable on the PDF format, or you can print them off and use them in paper format and file them in an A to Z in your store. Okay, so follow-up email. Do this at the time of payment and at the end of the fitting, as well as following up and repeating it in the follow-up email. Do it both times. So explain the next stage, how you're going to keep in touch with them, keep them aware of any delays on the product arriving, managing their expectations and so on. So they know not to ring you, because they don't need to ring you, because you're keeping them fully informed as to what stage their order is at and when you expect to receive it. So bear in mind, when you make this statement, you're giving them or setting an expectation of service. So make sure you and your team deliver on that expectation. And then explain your comprehensive after-sales service. So 4 weeks after collection, you'll be inviting them back for an equipment check to make sure they're happy with their purchase. As part of the custom fit program, they're part of your exclusive club now, so they can contact any member of your team on a dedicated custom fitting email address, for example, and get advice on golf-related issues. Tell them you'll keep in contact with them throughout the year. And after 12 months, they'll get an invite back for another equipment check and possibly a 10 or 20% discount on regripping if it's required at that stage. But as I said, send this out in an email thanking them for the attendance, and do it within 24 hours. And I would make it the responsibility of the person that did the custom fitting to carry out this duty. Okay, so we've come to the collection time, which is stage 5. So we're 2 or 3 weeks after you've ordered the golf clubs. Some key points to note about the collection process. Very important. Check their order to ensure it's the correct specification before calling them. Times I've heard where it's missing 2 wedges, or the clubs weren't right, or whatever, and they open the box in front of the customer. Now we've got a problem which you can't correct. So check before you call the customer to make sure everything is correct. Put the clubs back in the box and allow them to unwrap it like Christmas, or even better, place them in the golf bag that you've managed to sell them. Because if I'm buying a new set of Mizuno irons, I don't want to actually walk around the golf course with them in a Titleist golf bag. So it makes sense that someone buying a new set of irons and spending all that money should be buying a golf bag to match, as well as the gapping session. Let them try the new clubs in the studio. If the studio is not busy, you have time to sort of spend 5 minutes with them. Present them with a free gift, and I'll show you examples of this, but this is about exceeding their expectations. They won't be expecting a free gift from you, but the impact it has is enormous. And I'll show you some examples of that in a second. Very important. This is the moment when you agree and diarize the 4-week equipment check stroke gapping session date and time. So as they pick up their golf clubs, they're very happy. Get the diaries out, get that in the diary for 4 weeks' time for them to come back with their clubs and to have their equipment check, which should take about 20 minutes maximum, really, unless it's a gapping session, in which case it will take longer, but you've been paid for that. And obviously keep them close, make them feel special and really appreciated for giving you their business. So gift ideas, these are some we've done in the past. So mugs, for instance, the next morning when they're having coffee, they're looking at your logo and your studio brand, and it reminds them every morning to come back and see you again when they have their coffee. So that's very powerful. Of course, you can use these in the golf store. You can use them in the academy as well, in the studio, but also as a gift for a golfer who's been fitted. Brilliant. They're seeing your brand every time they have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. On the right, we've done some boxes which are personalized. So again, these cost about £6–7 roughly. So you need to build this into your margins, but it's personalized with their name, bag towel, ball marker, and so on. Very personal. Great gift. And I can assure you, they'll talk more about these gifts than they will do their new clubs. The one in the middle is my brother-in-law who bought a new car. And when he picked the car up, they presented this cake with the registration and the logo and so on. And all he actually talked about to us all on our WhatsApp chat group was the cake. We didn't see a picture of the car. All we saw was this cake. So after spending 35, 40 grand on a new car, we didn't see the car. All we got was a picture of his cake. So the impact was enormous to actually get this cake, more so than the car. So free gift ideas are perfect and they exceed the customer's expectations. Key points on the equipment check, and these are very important. If there are any issues, they must be put right immediately. What you can't afford after a whole process like this is to have someone out there saying, well, I went through all this and I'm playing worse golf now than I've ever done, or they just don't feel right, or whatever it might be. Whatever it is, put it right. So if you made a mistake with the shaft specifications, for instance, or the lie, or the grips are too thin or too thick, put it right. If the equipment is perfect, but he's just not getting to grips with it, then offer maybe a free lesson to help that person play better with the golf clubs. Whatever it costs you, it's worth it. So if it isn't addressed and it becomes an issue, they can do you so much damage. So whatever it costs you, put it right. And then treat any cost that you've actually gone through as a marketing expense, because it is good marketing. Have that customer saying, well, they weren't quite right and the shaft didn't suit me, but they actually changed it and now it's perfect. And you know what? When you've got a problem, they put it right. So please go to them because they're great. Yeah. So going from a customer who's got a problem, you've now got a customer for life because you sorted out the issue and they're now out there playing really good golf and really enjoying their purchase. So treat it as a marketing expense and then take your team through it and discuss it so that you can perhaps avoid it in the future. And also, if you haven't done already, use the equipment check session to sell a lesson or a goal-specific coaching program. Because we know they can't buy a game. They're trying to buy a game, as most golfers tend to. But if they spent £2,000 on lessons, they'd be in a much better place. So if we can actually say, yes, we want the hardware sales, but the combination of your new clubs with some coaching and a coaching program will get you to where you want to be. So everybody that's having a hardware custom fit, for instance, should be drawn into a coaching program at some point. And the 4-week equipment check is probably the ideal time to do it. Okay, gapping session. I keep going on about this, but if you haven't done it already, sell one right now. Because, for instance, they're out there, but yeah, they're going different. I'm overshooting the green or I'm coming up short or whatever it might be. Well, a gapping session is necessary. So you know exactly what distances these new clubs go to. And I have a gapping tag for those that want it, if they get in touch with me, which is a design that hangs off the golf bag and can be referred to, which is also self-promoting. So it's something they can refer to each time they come up to a par 3, for instance, or a shot into a green. Very powerful. Also, if they've loved the experience, they're loving the equipment check, everything's going great, ask them for a written testimonial on their service and outcome, or even do a video, for instance, with them, and get them talking about the fitting experience on the video. Whatever you need to do, use social media, use their experience, their positive experience to help draw more people into your business. And also, very important, make sure the customer understands this is the beginning of the journey. This is not the end. I've got the golf clubs. You've done the equipment check. Bye-bye. We're going to keep in touch with you. This is the beginning of an exciting journey where you have access to my team through WhatsApp, email, or one-to-one. So they're now part of this exclusive club. At the end of the 4-week equipment check, again, it's time to diarize the 4-month and 8-month follow-up phone call, noting in the diary what clubs they've bought and the specifications, so you can be more specific when you have this conversation with them. No phone call made in 4 months' time, and there'll be no phone call made in 8 months' time. So very, very important that these things are put in the diary. Same applies to the 12-month invitation. You might want to do that at the end of the 8th month invitation, or you might want to do it before. It might be easier at the end of the 8th month invitation to invite them back or make a note in the diary to phone them to then arrange a suitable time to invite them back with their clubs for an annual review and a discounted regrip if necessary. Okay, but manage this process. Very important. Don't just forget about them. As I mentioned before, every time they come in, good, free, fresh coffee throughout the fitting process. And every time they come in, they're a special customer now. Keep them close. And as I've said before, the fitting form must be filed alphabetically for future reference. So they're coming in for wedges, coming in for a 3-wood. You don't need to go through this whole process again. You know their specification. You know what clubs they had before. You can find it very, very easily. And it makes you look so much more professional. Keeping the customer engaged. Well, the following details should only apply if you've not talked them into a coaching program, which I would hope in most cases by now they're coming back every 2 weeks to spend some time with you, having a regular coaching lesson. So therefore you're seeing them, you're engaged with them, you're seeing their equipment, and they are now a regular customer who's spending money both on coaching and on equipment. So therefore this process doesn't apply. This only applies if you fail to get them into a coaching program. So during the phone calls, inquire about their game, how they're playing. Make sure before the phone call you've made a note of their successes, so you can talk about the fact, oh, I did see that you won the medal 3 weeks ago, and that you, whatever it might be, you won the longest drive, so you could actually be more sociable. Come across as being genuine, but always have an agenda in your conversation. You're doing this conversation with them to keep them close and to encourage them to come back and see you and spend more money with you and have lessons with you and not go anywhere else. Invite them to various events that you might be doing at the club. For instance, maybe you're doing a short game clinic, invite them to that. If you're doing an away day, for instance, with members, invite them to that. Keep them feeling involved, close, and special. Another one we've done quite successfully, we do events for those that have bought golf clubs at certain golf clubs, where we invite 3 customers to have a 9 holes of golf with the person that did the fitting, for instance. So it's a good 4-ball, gives them more chance to talk about their purchases. It gives you a chance to see their clubs in action. It always generates more business. It always generates lesson revenue. And it also gets them more promoting your events through social media, because they'll go onto Facebook and Twitter and whatever and actually talk about this event, and from that people will actually choose to come to you for their golf clubs as opposed to somewhere else. So all these things are very positive. It's a bit of time out for you in terms of 9 holes of golf, but getting out in the golf course is not a bad thing, and it will generate an awful lot of business, more so than just standing behind the counter in the shop. And all these initiatives, guys, show that you clearly value their business and you genuinely care. And that's the point of difference. Get that right, and they won't go anywhere else. Okay, so the benefits of this process. You will quickly gain a reputation of excellence from customers, booking purely from word of mouth. So people are going to be out there and talking about this amazing experience that they've had, and you're going to be doing exactly the same with your social media and the testimonials that you're going to get back from these customers. You're going to quickly gain a reputation for an outstanding custom fitting service. And this will allow you to make some decisions about whether you do these free or whether you put a premium charge on this. So my advice on this, if you're going to charge, don't give it back, because in most cases, customers actually close at the end and buy, forgetting that they're going to get their 30 or 40 or 50 pounds back. So you're now just giving that 50 pounds back when they've forgotten about it and already decided to buy from you. So you're losing that margin. So you could say, right, if you buy, you get half of it back, for instance, or just stand by the service that you offer. And if you offer this level of service, they'll be happy to pay and expect to pay for the service, which allows you that additional premium for your service, a little bit more money for negotiations, and it improves your margin. Also, by going through a service like this, you actually eliminate and reduce the amount of haggling, because what happens is people actually enjoy the service so much they will not heckle you for a discount at the end. They appreciate the service. You've gone through the process. You've closed them as you've done it. You're not closing just to give them a discount. So it really does work by offering this kind of service to increase your margins by allowing you to charge for the service. And secondly, it reduces the negotiation on price, because the customers have enjoyed the service so much, they probably pay twice as much. Custom fitting will become a huge part of your business. The key thing is that you actually get all the team involved in this. So when you go back to your stores, please use this presentation to talk all the staff through it and make them understand that every customer must experience the same journey. It doesn't work if 10 customers a week get this service and 5 who came in didn't get this kind of service. Every customer must get this level of service and get the 7-stage process, which means diary management, it means form management, it means keeping the studio neat and tidy. It means everybody's involved in this process. And if you commission the staff behind it as well to do it, even better. It will establish long-term relationships, lots of people based on trust. And it will, I guarantee, leave the competition miles behind. The guys that I've got doing this, that I work for as my clients, are doing huge amounts of business. I've got one store doing well over 1 million, and most of that is hardware sales. And we've increased the turnover by over 200,000 in the last couple of years, each year, by introducing this process. Before that, there was no process like it. So it was very much a poor studio, no wow factor, inconsistent service, fitters not being taught to fit in the same way, and it was poor. And since we've introduced this, we've not looked back. As I said before, they'll become a huge part of your business. These customers will be out there as an unpaid workforce, selling your business and telling customers to go nowhere else, as the fitting experience is second to none. Hardware benefits: well, high stock turns will give you better buying power. You'll get great cash flow because you're taking payment up front for your hardware business and placing orders, so your cash flow is always positive. You've got the cash in the bank at least 3 or 4 weeks before you're paying for the equipment that's been delivered. And also your margins will be better because customers will not negotiate as much, and you can charge a premium for the service. Powerful in-store branding is available from suppliers, as well as financial support. Suppliers, Titleist, Callaway, TaylorMade, they love great studios as much as we do. So if you can demonstrate this kind of service, if you can demonstrate that you're going to promote it, in most cases, the actual slat wall inserts and the storyboard that I've talked about for your stores often can be paid for from the suppliers. But don't get it wrong. Okay, so untidy, cluttered studios with saggy nets, no wow factor, no fresh coffee will not meet customer expectations. And studios, as I've said before, where you've spent fortunes without the structured fitting sales process is a missed opportunity and won't result in long-term customers or quick return on your investment. So put in this process, talk about it, do some training on it, do some trial runs with it with staff, get the forms ready, put a commission structure in place to motivate the junior staff to also obtain bookings. And in my opinion, you won't look back. Okay, so we'll go to any questions, I think.
If you have a question, anyone, just feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question.
No questions, all straightforward, yeah? Who likes
It was a good session, eh?
the process? Who thinks it makes sense? We have some, great, thank you for that, Charlie. That's great, glad you enjoyed it. Anything you didn't understand or you want to go over again in terms of the process? Any parts that you'd like to cover again?
Just a few things.
Yeah, some good comments coming through. It's great. As I said, you're going to get all these documents to support this, and you can actually edit them yourself and put this process in place with your own logo on the document, so you can personalize it. But the key thing is it's consistent, guys. Make sure if you put it in place, no one is allowed to deviate from doing it this way.
Hi, Peter. Stephen here.
Hi, Stephen.
So I'm not actively custom fitting, or I haven't done much of it. So it's a bit of a strange question, but in your experience, do you find that customers improve a lot from being custom fitted?
In terms of their golf?
Benefit a lot, should I say?
Well, it depends. It's a difficult one, really. If the customer, for instance, is 6'5", got hands like shovels and so on, and is playing with no ordinary set of golf clubs, then they're going to benefit a lot from custom fitting. If I'm very honest, I think the differences can be subtle. I mean, if it's a shaft difference, it can be massive. So if they're playing with the wrong shaft, for instance, and it's too stiff or too soft, then that can cause all sorts of issues. But I think what it does do, it gives them the confidence in the new purchase. But the key thing for me is the purchase needs to also include you guys selling a coaching program at the same time. Because let's face it, if it's a good golfer, they can hit most things. Poor golfers or high handicap golfers are quite inconsistent in their strike. So even with the best equipment in the world, they're not going to find the center of the face each time, are they? And it'll be in a different position. So yes, there are benefits to custom fit. And I think the biggest benefit of all for me is that it's actually put the pro in a unique position, because we're now pushing custom fit to the point that it is so important. Now, whether you believe that or not, the fact we're pushing it means the best person to fit you for that is your PGA pro. So not a shop, not online. And the one person that can offer you unbiased PGA advice is your pro, because they care. If they get it wrong, they're going to see the customer 2 or 3 times a week and get it in the ear anyway. So it's in their interest to get it right. So custom fitting plays into your hands, because the only people that can really do it genuinely correctly and with an unbiased view is the PGA professional. And if you also make custom fitting a wow experience, which is what this process does, and they get their free gift, they get their invite back for the 4-week equipment check, they're going to love you guys and not go anywhere else for any future purchases. And that's what I'm trying to do here, is to make sure you guys understand it's for you to lose. If somebody gets in their car and drives 30 miles to buy a purchase when you could have sold it to them, then we're doing something wrong, aren't we? So yeah, so it is important, but the important thing for me is that it puts you guys in a unique position to be able to do it properly.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Steve?
Yeah, great answer. Thanks very much.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so the question here about a full bag of golf clubs. Now, what you need to avoid is actually doing a custom fit for 2.5 hours, for instance, because A, you're going to lose out on opportunities for someone else to go in the studio. Secondly, the customer is going to get knackered because they've hit too many golf balls. So they get to the end of the process and they just can't make a decision because they've just hit too many balls. So this is where you need to manage the process. So with the fitting form, the inquiry form, you've got the facts in front of you. So you should be able to whittle it down, first of all, to the brand that they're sort of leaning towards, because some of an idea, I want, my next set of golf clubs are going to be tailor-made or Ping or whatever it might be. So you perhaps need to include that in the process. But the bottom line is the decision will be made not on the brand, but on the fit. So therefore, the clubs that are chosen are the best ones for them. That might be that they turn out to be the Pings they wanted. It might end up being a totally different brand. So therefore, you need to make sure, yeah, I'm replying, hopefully they can hear me. So what you should need to do is actually manage the process. So don't go in there with 5, 6, 7 sets of irons. Go in there with 2 or 3 based on their requirements and their needs. Because if you go with 5 or 6 or sets, whatever it might be, the process is going to take too long. You won't sell them a full set of irons by the end process. You'll be occupying the studio longer than it's been diarized for. So you are in charge, guys. So you manage the process. So a full set of irons, for me, I would expect it to be no more than an hour, hour and 10 max. Even quicker if you can get the dispersion rates up on the screen and so on. Depends how many you're going with, but don't go in with too many golf clubs and stay in control. You're the one that's controlling how many shots are taken, how the stats are looking. Don't let them think they're in a sweet shop when they just want to try everything on the racks, because that's not how it's done. And you won't get to a conclusion within the time you've got. Did that answer the question?
I'm sure he did. Yeah, he said, thanks.
Any more questions? Any more questions on messages been sent in, Francois?
No, nothing on my side, eh?
I think quite a few come in mind. Let me look on the chats.
Okay.
Give me a second, guys. I'll just have a look at the chats. Okay, I've done the bag one. I wouldn't recommend a certain brand. I think what you need to do in the mix is have a brand that offers you decent margin, for instance. So let's take, for example, Shrixon or something similar. But also the margins really are down to your buying power. I mean, the margins have improved on hardware over the last 5 or 6 years anyway. But you need to get the fitting cart in. And often you have to pay for these fitting carts. But if you actually implement this process, you'll suddenly find that you're doing more fittings and the cost of the fitting cart can be reimbursed. So you need to have that sort of, and you need to know your market as well. So if you're at a golf club where most of them are beginners and it's not a wealthy area, then you need to make sure you don't stock, the most expensive equipment. But at the end of the day, you do need to have the fitting bags. But for me, don't keep it in a bag. It needs to be on the shelves. It needs to be displayed in the proper way or put into the nice sliding metal drawers that I showed in the presentation. Fitting bags get messy, they get dusty, they take up space in your studio, and they're an eyesore. Unless you're going out on a range to fit, in which case you do need the fitting bags. In a studio, then give each brand a section and make it look, give it more of a wow factor. It's very important. Okay, I think that's all the questions. Anybody else who's got questions who thinks of them later can email me direct. That will be made available, I think, won't it, Francois?
Yes, 100%. We'll do that in the email we send with a link to the webinar.
Okay, I've just got one more here. No, it's all thanks. Lots of thanks. Okay, guys. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'd love to know about any successes you've had with it and any feedback. But we'll send you out all the information, and any questions you've got putting it into practice, then please, I'm very happy to come back to you about any specifics. Anything else we need to add?
I think that's all. I think, like you said, we'll just share all the additional documents that were referred to early in the presentation. We'll just send that with the link and all that stuff to everyone that came to watch.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Okay, guys. Well, good luck with it. It does work. It's a tried and proved formula. The biggest independent retailer in the UK uses it to massive success. And the custom fitting business for him has gone through the roof and allowed us to expand the operation. So, and I've got pros that have started it a year ago and are doing 100,000 more in turnover just on hardware because of this process. So it does make the difference, and most don't do it. So it'll give you the edge. Good luck.
Awesome. Pete, thanks so much. We truly appreciate your knowledge sharing with us. And I'm sure we'll get a few questions throughout the course of the week and next week as well. So thanks so much.
Look forward to it. All right, guys. Anytime. Cheers. Bye.
So thanks. Bye, everyone.